Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This episode will guide you through the issues of the Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel Comics in 1984. Issue 181. In the previous issue we saw how the heroes not only survived the surprise attack of the villains, but were able to take some villains prisoner as well. They then relocated themselves to a massive complex and made it their headquarters. Making themselves at home, they found a lot of alien technology, which proves to be very useful to them. After setting themselves up and making plans on how to defend their new home, the heroes still find themselves anxious and worried about how to get away from this ordeal, this planet, and return to home. Dr. Doom, after not being successful in convincing the villains nor the heroes to follow his lead, went back to where he and Galactus had crashed on this planet. He wanted to have a talk with Galactus, but Galactus did not seem interested in him at all, and walked away to a mountaintop where he had just been standing, seemingly not doing anything. Doom then went to the villain's headquarters and claimed it as his own, renaming it Doom Base. He then revived Ultron and reprogrammed him to be under his control. He then used Ultron to strong-arm himself as the new leader of the villains. Magneto, who had found his own new headquarters as well, infiltrated the hero's base of operations in search of a new power source. Not being able to finish what he came for, he escaped after a confrontation with some of the heroes and took the Wasp as a hostage. During that same confrontation, something happened to the Thing, and for some strange reason, no one seems to be able to figure out, he lost his powers and is now simply human. Far away from home, the heroes now find themselves not only removed from their loved ones, but missing one of their fellow heroes, and have no idea what Galactus is up to, and they just know to expect another assault from the villains. And outside, a massive storm has started brewing. A storm much more powerful and dangerous than anything they are familiar with on planet Earth. We now continue the story with Secret Wars, issue number 3. Somewhere on a distant planet stands a menacing structure. One that is far more massive than anything on planet Earth. Despite its awesome strength, it shudders as if it is made out of straw. This is due to the incomprehensible power of a storm that's raging over the planet. This storm would tear a mortal limb from limb in an instant. But what's far more dangerous than the storm outside the fortress is the man who resides within it. This man is the villain known to the people of planet Earth as Magneto, the self-styled master of magnetism. From inside the structure, he's watching the storm around him. He finds it wondrous and inspiring, yet he walks away from the window he was looking through because he has a guest to attend to. He takes off his helmet and sits himself down in a chair. What's not visible to the naked eye is that he's using his mutant power to control magnetic forces as he focuses his attention to the makeshift metallic prison he has stowed away in the structure's vast hangar. The prison itself, which must weigh pretty heavy, is suspended in the air, but when Magneto's force bolt strikes it, it explodes and the metal chunks collapse on the ground, liberating the prisoner Janet Van Dyne, known as the Avenger called the Wasp, but she herself flutters helplessly to the floor as well. She lies still, out of breath and aching for a few moments, until she gathers her bearings and realizes that this place she's at is not the hero's headquarters. She guesses she has been taken to Magneto's lair and decides to revert back to her normal size, hoping that the structure would look less foreboding when she's bigger, but it doesn't. She wonders why he decided to set her free before she actually suffocated in the prison he held her in, as she makes her way through the fortress. Once she has finally found Magneto, he greets her formally and tells her to not bother with attacking him, because he has himself magnetically shielded from any attack. But Janet is not impressed, and she tells him that she doesn't need to strike him directly to hurt him, as she shoots the plate with food and drinks which Magneto had been holding up in the air with his own powers. She tells him that she could bring this whole room down on top of him with her sting. Magneto tells her that would be quite uncomfortable for both of them, because the weather outside is deadly. And since neither of them are able to leave here for quite some time, he offers her a truce. He wants to have a talk with her, and that is why he brought her here. She tells him that he has an obnoxious way of arranging a conversation, but she will talk. First, Magneto apologizes for the suffering he has caused her. He then compliments her and tells her that he is not the monster she believes him to be, which is precisely what he would like to discuss. She asks him whether he means the traits he complimented her for, or his own, and Magneto suggests to discuss both. At that same time, many hundreds of miles removed, another enormous citadel the size of Chicago trembles before the breath of the storm. This is where the superheroes have made their headquarters. Benjamin Grimm and Johnny Storm, two members of the Fantastic Four who have seen their share of otherworldly planets and forces during their many adventures, are both amazed at what's going on outside. They joke around a bit, whether Ben would be able to withstand the storm in his Thing alter ego or not, had he still been made out of rock. They then see one of the lightning strikes hit one of the mountains surrounding them, and a huge chunk breaks off, coming straight at them. It's so huge that it would most likely flatten the whole place, and they won't stand a chance against it. But they are not the only ones who see this happening. Namely, the Thunder God and Avenger Thor is right outside and starts swinging his hammer Mjolnir. He simply throws it at the rock and smashes it into smaller chunks. They are still huge, but at least no longer a threat to the Citadel. And Thor rejoices. Not only because of this unbridled fury of the elements, but also because of the flush of victory. In a different part of the structure, Clint Barton and Jennifer Walters, Hawkeye and the She-Hulk, are having a discussion whether Hawkeye's exploding trick arrow would have been able to save them from the falling rock. Hawkeye tells her that she'd be amazed at what it could do, but the She-Hulk tells him, while carrying some enormous device, that considering where they are right now, little would amaze her at all, and certainly not a trick arrow. Hawkeye wants to say something to her, but he reconsiders, and tells her that all he can think of is his new bride and says that he misses her. He doesn't want to be here and just wants to go home. Iron Man, who is actually James Rhodey Rhodes and not his employer Tony Stark at this moment in time, and Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, check out different parts of the headquarters for any damage caused by the falling debris. Rhodey is not as familiar with Thor as Tony Stark is, and is amazed at how Thor is able to even stand in the storm because the raindrops probably hit like bullets. He asks Monica why, if Thor is a legit thunder god, he doesn't just control the weather and stop this storm. Monica suspects that Thor actually likes his elemental rage and might just be encouraging it. Iron Man doesn't understand why he would be doing that, and they then split up and go their own way because he simply can't keep up with Captain Marvel's speed. In the Citadel's communication chamber, the Hulk, Captain America and Mr. Fantastic are having a talk about their current situation. The damage caused by Magneto will soon be repaired. Even though Mr. Fantastic has not been able to figure out exactly how this alien technology works, he has been able to keep tabs on Galactus, who appears to still be standing still on the mountaintop, not paying any attention to the storm. At all. As for the villains, their headquarters seems to have some kind of aura around it. Mr. Fantastic thinks that they might be trying to tap into the energy of the storm, trying to absorb it. Cap would like to know what they are up to, but at least they can spy on the outside of the Citadel from a distance with these monitors, which might give them some warning in advance if and when they decide to launch another attack on the heroes. But all Reed really wants to see is his son and his pregnant wife. Cap then tells him that even though they'd miss out on Reed's capabilities, he would give anything for him to be with his wife and kid. Reed tells him that a part of him is. The Hulk then says that he wishes Reed was back at his home too, because that would spare the rest of them his whimpering. He says that he misses his woman as well, but it just makes him want to crush the enemy much more, and just get this ordeal over with. Cap tells him he will get his chance to do so soon. They already have 5 of their enemies captured, which should give them a huge edge over the villains. He expects for the villains to launch one more desperate, all-out attack as soon as the storm breaks, but they will be ready for them this time around. If everybody does their duty and pulls their weight, they should be victorious. Reed just hopes that they can all meet Cap's high standards. And he excuses himself and walks out of the room, leaving the Hulk and Cap to take turns and stand guard. Spider-Man sees him walk out and can tell that he's depressed, and he actually understands. They are in quite the predicament. It even sends chills down his spine when he thinks about just how far away they are from planet Earth. Despite all that, he does like the fact that this place suits his web swinging, All these pipes and tubes and whatnot really allow him to swing around. He has no idea what all this stuff is here for, but he likes it. At a certain point he finds himself in the part of the structure where the X-Men team is. He has known the X-Men for quite some time now, and is so used to seeing Professor Xavier in a wheelchair that it's weird to see him being able to walk around like this. He finds it somewhat antisocial of the mutants to separate themselves from the rest of the heroes like this, but decides to leave them be. Whatever they are talking about is none of his business, and he figures he'd better just leave before they notice him. But then he overhears what Xavier is saying through the glass he's hidden behind. Xavier tells his team that they must take matters into their own hands and that they don't belong here. Rogue agrees with him, since she has been in a fight with the Avengers only months ago and she can just tell that they are highly suspicious of her being here with the X-Men. They have a discussion about their place as a team, as mutants, and that they don't want to be oppressed because they're feared and hated. Xavier decides that it would suit them better to leave the heroes and join up with Magneto instead. And Xavier then senses Spider-Man's thoughts, who comes crashing through the glass, quickly knocks Xavier out and tells him that he could hear what they were talking about and doesn't like what he heard, and that he will tell the others about it. And within mere seconds, both sides are fighting with one another. The whole of the X-Men team is trying to subdue Spider-Man because they want to explain, but Spidey has heard enough. With his web shooters, agility and spider sense, warning him from threats from any side, the X-Men simply can't catch Spider-Man. He makes it out of the room, but the X-Men are still following him. When Spidey swings around the corner, he runs into Mr. Fantastic, who can tell that Spider-Man is stressed out. He tells Spider-Man to calm down, but all Spidey can tell him is that he has to listen to him. They've got to... And then, he simply forgot what he wanted to say and figures it must not have been important, and proceeds to swing away. Cyclops asks Mr. Fantastic what that was all about, but Reed has no clue. Back at the X-Men's quarters, Xavier has apparently recovered, mostly because Spider-Man didn't want to seriously injure him, and he has used his psionic abilities to reorder Spider-Man's mind. This is something that Xavier doesn't like to do, but he thinks that there's way too much at stake here, and so he was forced to alter Spider-Man's memories of what he had heard and what had happened. Only just in time before he could tell the others about it. Outside of the X-Men's quarters, Cyclops starts to talk to Reed. Reed thinks that the pressure of everything that's going on is getting to Spider-Man. Neither Cyclops nor Mr. Fantastic know much about Spider-Man's personal life, and Cyclops says that Spider-Man might just have a situation similar to theirs, namely that he's thinking about his wife back on Earth and about them not being sure if they will ever get back home. Cyclops then excuses himself for leaving because he got contacted by Professor Xavier telepathically, telling Cyclops to return at once. Urgently. While Cyclops is running back to his team, he wonders if Xavier will be taking a more active role and possibly take up the leadership position in the battlefield as well. And this worries him, because Xavier lacks the experience on the front line of combat, unlike the rest of the team. And this might just lead to a disastrous outcome. When he arrives back at the X-Men's hangout, Xavier tells the team that he has learned how to operate one of the alien vessels. It responds to thought commands of sufficient power, and was apparently constructed by a race of telepaths. He tells his team that despite the storm that's going on outside, he will leave at once, and their destination will be Magneto's fortress. When we switch over to Magneto's lair, Magneto himself voices his lack of interest in an offered alliance. But he's not telling this to the X-Men, but to Dr. Doom instead. Doom seemingly wanted to have Magneto on his side, and since Magneto declined, Doom warns Magneto that if he chooses not to serve him, he must consider him an enemy. Dr. Doom is sure to make clear that Magneto's choice to do so is irrevocable and he will live to regret it. Magneto then returns to the room he was in earlier, where Janet Van Dyne has been waiting for him. She asks him where he went to and if something is wrong, but Magneto tells her it was nothing. Janet tells him that she's glad he's back now, because she felt the place was eerie all by herself. Magneto interprets this as her missing him, but she wouldn't go that far, even though they have reached the beginning of an understanding of sorts. Magneto then voices that they do agree to something electric going on when their eyes meet. Yet Janet tells him that she doesn't remember agreeing to anything like that. Magneto then asks if it's true or not, as he moves in for a kiss. At first Janet objects, But that soon changes into only hesitation, and after Magneto has pointed out that there's only little time in this world of sudden death, and that they should not deny their own desires in this brief interlude of peace the storm brings them, Janet ultimately indulges in Magneto's romantic overtures and kisses him back. Across the storm, over at the fortress renamed Doom Base by Dr. Doom, there is another kind of change about to take place. Dr. Doom walks into one of the chambers which is filled with all kinds of equipment, and the room itself is off limits for everyone in Doom Base. Apart from himself, of course, and 2 of his subjects. He is still disappointed in Magneto's refusal to serve him, even though it was to be expected. Victory would have come swiftly for Doom if he had Magneto's vast powers at his disposal. But now that he doesn't, it has become even more important to take other steps to strengthen his forces. Point in case, Doom has prepared this alien technology he has come across to serve his purpose. And with the immense energies tapped from the storm that's raging outside, he's going to use it on the 2 women who willingly dare to gamble for more power at their fingertips. Knowing that to lose is death, they have volunteered to become Doom's test subjects. He will test the limits of power a human body can contain by throwing the switch of the machinery. As the process starts, he tells the 2 women that the power infused into them must be seized. They must crave it, welcome it, they must drink it in, despite the pain they feel, or it will destroy them. And only moments later, the 2 of them step out of the tubes they were in. No longer the women they were, they have now both become the vessels for raw power. Where they were once only known as Mary McFerrin and Marcia Rosenberg, they will from now on be known to the world as Titania and Volcana. Doom tells Marcia that he made sure she can revert back to her human form at will. When she stepped out of the tube, Marcia's body was made out of mostly ionized plasma, like the core of a star, and she can now radiate thermal energy from her skin, and Doom tells her to do so. She then uses her newly acquired powers and can feel it surging through her body. She doesn't understand how this is all possible, how she can be alive being all molten and liquid like a volcano. Mary's powers, though, are a lot different from Marcia's. Even though she underwent a physical change, it's less flashy. She is no longer scrawny, but now a physical specimen of immense strength and posture. She walks up to the slag left behind by Volcana and Doom warns her that it's still red hot, but she easily picks it up, feeling that nothing can hurt her. Dr. Doom then tells her to not deceive herself, because she can still get hurt, just not as easily. Titania then easily throws the slag outside of Doom Base, through the wall, like it's nothing, and says that she wants a real challenge. She wants something to crush, to lift, and to really test her strength. And Doom tells her to be patient, because she soon will prove her might in combat. And he then tells the 2 women to follow him. A little later, he introduces the 2 of them to the rest of the villains and vice versa. The assembled villains are confused as to where these women came from. Dr. Doom then orders Dr. Octopus and Ultron to go to the hangar deck and prepare the assault vehicles. He expects the storm to break at dawn, and that is when they will strike. Titania, while smashing some kind of stone vase, tells the absorbing man to get up. He asks her what she has in mind, and she tells him that he looks like the strongest man around here. She tells him she will do anything to him that she wants to do. Anything she has always wanted to do to everybody that was bigger and stronger than her in the past. She tells him that she might play with him or maybe make him eat dirt. But Crusher Creel is not impressed. He doesn't get up and tells her that if she has something to prove, she should do so tomorrow when they are fighting the heroes. Titania then asks him if he's backing down, and he tells her nope. He simply has nothing to prove to Dame. The wrecker then chimes in by saying that he is up for a little lip wrestling, while he mockingly puckers up. Titania walks away, pissed off, and smashes another one of the ornaments. The Molecule Man and Volcana watch Titania as she leaves and they end up in a conversation. Owen says that he really hates all that crashing around, and that he just can't stand violence. Volcana, surprised at what she's saying, mentions how she always wanted to meet him, and that he's different than what she expected him to be. Owen thinks that she's referring to his height, but Marcia is actually talking about him being more sensitive than what she was expecting, as she turns off her powers and reverts back to her human form. Owen then confides in Marcia, saying that his therapist, who he has been seeing after the Avengers talked him out of wanting to destroy the Earth, says that he is a lot more sensitive than expected as well. Marcia then tells him to look at the storm outside, and asks if it isn't impressive, but Owen tells her that it's not that impressive to him. It's just molecules interacting with one another. He could disperse the storm since he has total control of the molecules, but his therapist told him that he should let things take their natural course. He will not change a thing, unless Doom tells him so. Owen tells Marcia that he thinks Doom is impressive. He always knows what to do. Marcia concurs and says that Dr. Doom has a lot of charisma. Owen then says that his therapist probably wouldn't approve of this war, but he can't help believing in Doom though. If Doom wants to win this war, Owen will help him, even if that means that he has to rip this whole planet apart. Over at the headquarters of the superheroes, the Asgardian Thunder God Thor walks through the prison hall. Past the cells where Piledriver, Bulldozer and Thunderball, all members of the Wrecking Crew, and Kang the Conqueror are being held in psychostasis. He then walks into the adjoining chamber, where, in a special cell-regenerative healing capsule, his fellow Asgardian, the beautiful goddess known as the Enchantress, lies. He opens up the capsule and tells her to wake up. When she sees him standing there, she asks him if he has come here to gloat at her humiliation after her defeat to the mortal She-Hulk. She asks Thor if she has been scarred or bruised by the She-Hulk's fists, and if her beauty is still intact. Thor tells her that Mr. Fantastic made sure that she was healed by this machine from all sustained injuries after their battle. The Enchantress then asks Thor why he came here and if his mortal friends have forsaken him. But he tells her that is not the case at all. However, they are mortals and there are things of which only gods may speak. Things only gods can understand. And since the two of them are the only immortal gods of Asgard around here, they must talk. As the Enchantress gets up, she magically opens up a portal and tells him, very well, they will talk, but somewhere else, away from this dungeon. Thor tells her that no matter where that portal brings them, she will remain his prisoner. As she steps through the portal, she says perhaps, and tells him to come along. Sometime later, the Hulk is getting frustrated with himself. His brain seems to not function properly and he's getting a headache without the answers coming to him as they used to do before. He is starting to feel disoriented, and of course, being put here by this alien being of power, beyond anyone's comprehension, doesn't help things one bit. Captain America, who had been sleeping next to him, wakes up and asks him why he didn't wake him up as soon as the storm has broken, because that's when the villains are most likely to attack. He tells the Hulk to hurry up and sound the alarm, and to get everyone to their battle stations. And the Hulk does just that, and hesitantly tells Cap that he just hadn't noticed. But in his mind, he's starting to get annoyed with Cap raising his voice to him, and it makes him want to rip him in half. At that precise moment, outside of the complex, some kind of aircraft arrives. It's carrying the supervillains, and Dr. Doom is surprised that no one is there to blunt their attack. He had thought better of Captain America and Reed Richards, and says that they are indeed fools. He then tells the rest of his crew to prepare themselves for a collision. And the aircraft gets smashed through one of the walls, breaching any form of exterior defenses, allowing the villains entry into the heroes' headquarters. Doom then instructs the Wrecker that his primary objective is to free the prisoners. The rest of them can attack anyone, at their own free will. He tells them to wreak havoc and to slay anyone they can. The Molecule Man asks Doom what he should do, and Doom tells him his role is the most important one. He must remain vigilant right next to him at his side. Only seconds later, in the quarters occupied by the three members of the Fantastic Four, Johnny Storm the Torch sees the villain storming in and immediately activates his powers and tells the others. Mr. Fantastic tells his longtime friend Benjamin Grimm to stay here, since he only recently lost his powers, while he will try and find Captain America. But then, while Reed is still in mid-sentence, the three of them get smashed by a huge chunk of the wall, which slams right into them. With Mr. Fantastic and Benjamin Grimm being knocked unconscious, only the Torch is able to return the attack. He fires back at this unknown woman entering their quarters, but one of his arms and some of his ribs appear to be broken. Titania just keeps on marching towards him through the flames, and she tells him that even though the flames hurt her, he's only making things worse for himself once she gets to him, because she sure will get to him eventually. But as Titania finds out, the torch has used his powers to drop himself and his teammates to a lower level by burning through the floor. Somewhere else in the complex, the She-Hulk is moving things around and can hear some kind of noise coming from somewhere and wonders what it is. What she doesn't notice is that Volcana approaches her from behind and immediately starts blasting at her. Not only does she knock the She-Hulk off her feet, appearing to be knocked out cold, but Volcana then starts using her powers on the ceiling. It's starting to melt, resulting in it collapsing right on top of the She-Hulk. Monica Rambeau, who is enjoying a nice warm bath, is starting to get confused, because she thought the storm was over, yet she can still hear thundering sounds. Unless of course it's no thunder, but the Hulk belching. Whatever she thinks it is, she's certainly not aware of them being under siege. And this allows Dr. Octopus to surprise her and attack her from behind, and he uses his mechanical arms to slam her in her head. But somehow, at the last instant, Monica was able to roll with the attack, and so his attack was not as effective as it should have been. But that is not something another attack won't fix, Otto Octavius thinks. Doc Ock then moves in for the final blow. But luckily for Captain Marvel, Hawkeye is here to stop him in his tracks. He starts firing arrows at Dr. Octopus, and he just knows how accurate Hawkeye is with his bow and arrow, and he also knows that he himself is not best suited for long-range attacks. So he plays it safe by shielding himself with a piece of the floor, and he retreats and leaves Hawkeye for the others to attack. At that moment, Spider-Man has made his way to Iron Man, telling him they've got trouble going on. Iron Man tells Spidey that he's coming as soon as he's finished getting his armor on. But he will not be able to do so in time, because the both of them get blindsided by another one of the villains attacking. In this case, the attack is being done by the powerful robot Ultron. But even though he's standing on top of the debris triumphantly, Iron Man notices how he's not moving in for the kill. Somehow, Ultron did not see or expect Iron Man and Spider-Man to be here. Iron Man decides to wait for Ultron to leave and will then pull Spider-Man out from under the debris. In the meantime, the Hulk has made his way to where Dr. Doom and the Molecule Men are at. Feeling guilty for not noticing the storm breaking up and not waking up Captain America and the others in time, he feels only he has the strength to set this all right, and he's going to start his campaign right at the source. But for all the Hulk's strength, he is no match for Owen Reese. The Molecule Man simply hurls a shower of rocks at him, throwing the Hulk back and off his feet. Captain America, who was following right behind the Hulk, tells him to just fall back. They've got to gather up the others, consolidate and retreat to a defensible position right now. The Hulk agrees and he then leaps away from there with Cap hanging onto his back. Moments later, the Wrecker has returned with the rest of his wrecking crew and Kang. He was successful in liberating them, but he could not find the Enchantress. The Molecule Man is proud of himself and tells the Wrecker how it was him who drove the Hulk away, as the other villains return as well. They have no casualties on their side, but as Doom points out, they have few kills as well. Certainly less than he had hoped for. But regardless, they have accomplished much here today. And to finish it off, they will level this place so that no stone remains on stone. Thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed it. You can help growing this channel by liking, subscribing and sharing. This tells YouTube that the videos I'm making should be recommended to others and would be very much appreciated. See you next episode.